So, hey there, everybody. Welcome to A Slice of Life with Kellie and Jon. And today we have an amazing guest who has done so much in her little life that we probably won't have enough time. It would take, a week to just talk to her about maybe even half of what she's done. But we're going to try to fit in as much as we can in this time. Heather Hale, welcome
I'm
to A
honored to
Slice
be
of
here.
Life.
Thank you. It's
So,
always a slice, right, John?
Always slice
well,
it.
that's how the name came about. Jon came up with it because he always says it's a slice, right?
Awesome.
In a slice. Yep.
Yeah. So where do we start? Jon, where do we start? She's your
Well,
friend. I
uh,
don't know much. I've
I
just read her
found
resume, which took me an hour.
when I did meet you, you were doing these seminars
Yeah,
in Hollywood. These
back
writers
in Hollywood.
or networking seminars too.
Power networking. Yeah,
So
I
why don't
still
we talk
do
about that too?
those. Yeah.
Because I'm
Well,
sure
it's cool. It's interesting because I still teach them. I think that way. I just think that way. Linda Sager has that book, Web Thinking. I think about all these connectivities. So my dad was a spy. I don't know if you know that. And so when I was 18, interviewed for a week in Arlington, Virginia for the CIA. I was going to be a spy. So I think that way. And so way back when I taught networking, I still do to this day. But people always think, networking is schmoozing, it's self-serving, it's all these negative connotations.
more than that.
Yeah, it's to me, it's the highest gift. I'm all about what can I do for you? How can I help you? And people used to say, Heather has helped thousands and thousands of people. She's going to run a studio someday because everybody owes her a favor. And I don't do it for that reason. I do it to pay it forward, pay it forward, pay it forward. But if you have someone over here who needs what this person over here has, why wouldn't you connect them? So connecting those dots, and it's interesting because I've taught networking, power networking. So I've taught power networking for actors, power networking for directors, power networking for below the line crew. Like it's all the same, everybody. You're just using different terminology. So I've taught in like Hong Kong, Barcelona, Ireland, like all around the world. And it's the same thing for college and universities as it is for chambers of commerce. It's what do you need? Who has what you need? And how do you create a win-win? Right. So I've done that for years. And now I'm using, I don't know if you know Airtable, but it's this like Excel on speed. It's this relational database. So I've been managing to put all the people I know in a database, all the content, all the books, all the movies, all the TV shows, all the issues, who's vegan, who's animal rights, who's faith-based, who's faith light, and I also track when I'm watching movies and television, will be like, oh, he looks like so and so, or so when I think if I'm going to cast that guy and I need to flash back to him as a child or flash forward, or they need to look like they're in different time zones. So I have all these doppelgangers that that I'm tracking all these, like, it's almost like I call it my second brain, which is the Tiago Forte. It's this oracle of who I want for every one of my projects, and then who might be their brother or sister or mother, or but it's power networking.
You're breaking down the 6 degrees down to 4 degrees or 3 degrees.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I have a list of probably 500. I'm sure I have thousands, but 500 current equity investors, financiers for film and television projects. And you can't pitch the marlin fishing tournament project to the animal rights activist, right? You just kill yourself.
Right.
Or you have someone who has a Jewish father and a Muslim mother, that there's just, it's not that everybody won't do these things, but people have their Achilles heels and their heartstones and their buttons. And so you may have 50 projects, but one they will love. And so it's a little bit like when you go to the doctor or you go to a mechanic, diagnostics is the hardest part, right? There's 500 buyers or 2,000 buyers, but one that will really buy. And rather than pitching and pitching and pitching to people who don't actually have the money, who are not interested in what you're selling, who would never do that kind of a project ever. I've pitched really great projects to people that were LGBTQIA projects when they were closeted and didn't know that. so how could I possibly, you know what I mean?
Right.
There's just stuff going on that you don't know. So the more you can research and track stuff, or you're pitching with your cast wish list and that's somebody's ex-wife. Well, you need to do your due diligence to figure that out. Yeah.
Can we back up though for the
Yeah.
audience because we kind of
Yeah.
jumped into the middle? So you're a producer, or like what is your main title? What are you
I guess my main title is the hyphen, right? That's where
hyphen from what I saw on your resume. So you've been a writer, producer,
I was a
director.
writer since I could write. Since I was 4 years old, I was published at
Oh, wow.
12. I won a poetry contest at 12. I went to college as a creative writer. Like I've always known. Someone asked when I was 4 years old, what do you want to do when you grow up? And at 4, not even knowing what it was, they said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And of course, I didn't know the word writer. I didn't know what any of those things meant. But I said, I want to do something with words. So I knew it was words, right? So at 4, I knew words. And then, I've just gotten my MFA as a non-traditional student, which was an incredibly interesting experience. An MFA as my master's in fine art in film and television with an emphasis on directing, which is a mouthful in and of itself. So I have probably 200 hours produced credits as a writer, producer. I have done a feature film, indie feature film as a director, writer, producer. I'm a senior producer of a TV talk show that is the #1 life coaching show on television, broadcast television.
What is that show?
It's called now, it's gone through iterations, but it's currently called Lifestyle with Roy Ice. It used to be called Lifestyle Magazine. And we just had William Shatner, we've had Jacqueline Smith, Lonnie Anderson, and all these stars come and talk about whatever their heart button is, their charities, their disease that either they're struggling with or someone in their family that they're trying to raise awareness for. So it's a really cool, and then so we do this, we call it the AWARE keys, 5 AWARE keys. And you think of the acronym AWARE. So it's what a balanced life is. And that's attitude, because it's all comes down to attitude. Wellness, which is, of course, physical activity and nutrition. I'm sorry, wellness is nutrition. And then the next one is activity. And then R for relationships, because it's whether it's romantic or family or whatnot, professional. And then E is existence to make the word, but it's really purpose or calling. So we try to hit episodes on all of those things, because I always think of like the Feng Shui Bagua with the 9 things that tell you, or I'm Little Miss California, airy fairy, chakras. You want to have a balanced life, and you don't want to have you could have a fantastic romance and have no health, or you could have a terrific career but be ignoring your family. And it's tough. And people say you can't have it all, and you can or you can't, but it's hard to have it all at once.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense, because
how do you have as much of it as you can and not drop any balls while you're spinning all those plates? I always think of myself as, Sisyphus, the famous legend of tirelessly. I feel like I'm Sisyphus the octopus, and I've got 8 balls going up the hill at all times, and they're all spinning plates. So yeah.
Well, I like the word aware. I think self-awareness is so important, and so many people don't have it. And I think that's really important in life.
And I think it's important too, because I am the last person to tell you how to live your life or be the guru or the subject matter expert. There's so much judgment, and there's so much comparing. We're all at different paths. We all have different goals. We're all at different stages. So I have a couple themes that I try to live by, and one is Kaizen and one is Kintsugi. Kaizen I lived in Japan a year when I was 19 or so. Kaizen is incremental baby steps of improvement in every direction. And so I try to live my life that way, to just be a little bit better, a little bit every which way. Kaizen. And Kintsugi, you may or may not know, is when the vase is broken and then they repair it with gold. Right. So it's an ancient Japanese art, but basically that we're stronger where we're broken. Right. And that we have to not hide our scars, but to honor them and be aware that they're there, and they make us that much stronger. So my theme every year or several years is Kaizen Kintsugi. And then I have another theme, I'm going to say them wrong. The Sharon Freudenheiden, when people, it's the German word for enjoying other people's misfortune. Schadenfreuden. Anyway, the opposite of it is Freudenfreuden, and that is when you are delighted by your friend's successes. And so I try to live that way. I feel like it's like you're ice skating and you're holding hands. And when I can get forward, I have the momentum to pull two more people forward. And then if they can help, so it's to celebrate everyone around you with their successes and to be there for them during their failures, because that's where all the lessons are, right?
I found that in Los Angeles, in the Hollywood community, there is a lot of that. People supporting each other and cheering for each other. And in other areas of life and other places, people are trying to pull each other back and compete and hold each other down. Instead, the Hollywood community really is supportive of each other. And a win for my friend is a win for me. Because that's my friend. I'm excited for her.
I agree with that more. That like makes my heart open like a rose. I've lived in other communities and I've heard people say, well, Hollywood is so cliquey and so backstabby. Really? Have you ever lived there? Because I've never been anywhere where you are surrounded by dreamers who are supporting one another. Everybody has left their friends and families to pursue a dream, and they are there for you. Yes, there's backstabbers. Yes, there's con artists and posers and all that shit, but that's in used cars and insurance and every stock market, Wall Street, that's everywhere. But yeah, in Hollywood, you have people who get that we make something out of nothing every day.
And even if you're not in the industry, I don't know if it's just LA attracts people, attracts people from all over the world that are dreamers, like you said, and wanting more out of life.
And hustlers and ambitious people and people who are
hardworking, talented. You're competing against the greatest people in the whole world. I mean, people that have come from everywhere that have the biggest talents and hardest working education.
To be fair, it's a revolving door, so you're always getting the fresh batch.
That's true. Because the people that don't survive leave. They end up leaving. It's a rough life. I was trying to explain to someone, in a smaller town, there's not very much competition. I mean, as an employer, when I've had to hire people, I've hired people that I didn't feel were qualified enough for the job, but that was the best I could do. Whereas in some place like Los Angeles, you have to be the best because there's 5 to 10 other people every single day dropping off a resume to try to get your job. And so to live in a community like that, where it's so much competition, but also you have to support each other. Otherwise you eat each other alive. I mean, it would be also a very unpleasant circumstance.
I find like in the Hollywood diaspora, when you find a little expat community of a bunch of people who used to be in Hollywood, that's a good community too.
Yeah.
Because they get it.
Yeah,
they get it. And they're not dealing with the traffic. So
yes, you're much happier.
Yeah. I love people bitch and moan about LA who have never been there, never lived there. I love LA. I will defend it forever. Love LA, love California. I'm not there now, but that's not, where we are now. We can live 6 months in a old 100-year-old Victorian with a half acre with a koi pond and an organic garden. I can't afford that in LA yet.
Yes, that's a good one. Well, there's good and bad everywhere. And that's why I get frustrated with in our country.
For sure.
There's so much to see. And I am so glad I've lived in many different cities and states, and people that never leave their hometown don't know what they're missing out on. And like you said, they've never lived anywhere else, but they sure will be judging the people from those places. But I feel so fortunate to have lived around our beautiful, rich country and experienced all the different cultures, and there's good and bad in all of them. So we should be more united and not beating each other up, but be supportive of each other and grateful that we have this big country with all these different.
When I left LA, I lived in Tucson, Arizona for a while for my parents. And now I'm in Savannah, which is the deep South. And so now I'm in as humid as can be from the most arid, dry.
Yep.
So even just, I always think you bloom where you're planted, and that's true of the people. Yep. That's true of everything. And there's a lot when I was living in Tucson that I missed about California. And now that I'm in Savannah, there's a lot I miss about Tucson. Epic skies. Like there's beautiful things about each place, and you just have to learn to love it. And you have to find your community, find your tribe. And that's what's beautiful about LA, as expensive as it is. I kind of feel like your tribe is everywhere,
Well, you can find everything you want in LA.
Yeah.
If you want to be a loser and a drug addict, you can do that and find your group.
You can do that anywhere.
If you want to be well, I guess, yeah, not these days, but if you want to be, successful and motivated, and you can find that kind of group of people. If you're in the film industry, you find those people. If you're in insurance or whatever. So there's really the weather, we've got the mountains,
it's tough to beat. The weather goes from mild to perfect.
Yeah.
Paradise to, it's just,
and then it's got the traffic. So, there's like, I try to explain to people, there's no perfect place.
The traffic and the cost of living and the taxes, like the taxes, I think are 13.5, about to go to 18% for income tax. And you have places like Nevada that has 0 income tax. And, my boyfriend always says, my boyfriend is Scottish. So from Scotland, Scottish.
Oh, wow.
And we lived in LA for, I don't know, 10 years. I lived there a lot of my life, but we were together there 10 years. We've been together 15 now. But I think we met, knew me before I met him, Jon. Right. But he is willing to go back to LA, but he doesn't want to go back broke. Because it's
not a happy place to be if you don't have money.
Yeah. Because you need to be able to live where you want and not have to commute. And if you can do those two things, it is tough to beat LA.
Yeah. Yeah, you even almost need a helicopter to really have to be able to do that.
Or everybody comes to you for meetings. Because when I lived in Marina Del Rey, I could bike to the AFM. I didn't have to worry about parking. It was awesome. And I would always say, I lived in Marina Del Rey, which there's Venice and then Santa Monica. And then I would say, well, why don't we just meet? I don't know. Let's say Santa Monica. That's, and then another time I lived right at the Grove. I lived right above Air One and these cool apartments.
I love that.
I'd say, and people don't always know where you live. And I'd say, let's meet Summer Central. How about we meet at the farmer's market? Okay, that sounds great. And then I would walk. I always tried to be right in the heart of everything and get people to come to me.
Yeah, that's the ticket.
I remember that house. We had a party at that house.
Many.
Also, I should
parties at all my houses.
It's all coming back to me now, Heather.
I had lots. Most of my Oscar parties had about 600 people. We did one. Remember that one on 9000 Sunset? Huge Oscar parties.
Here, Heather had a what did you call it? The mastermind group.
Yeah.
Every year she would pick, I believe, 11 people.
So that we had 12 total. Yeah.
12 in total, counting you. I was fortunate to be chosen one year, and we would all get together once a month and just talk about the business and what could we do to help one another. What were we working on? What could you suggest? And brought all of these interesting people together.
Yeah, I still do that. To this day, I'm still in a group with Suzanne Lyons and Anne-Marie Gillen and Zach Gruber and Jill Denby Guest. And we're doing it. So in LA, every year I would pick like a composer, an animal trainer, people who did stuff I didn't know anything about. Because if you get 12 writers together, you might as well have a writers group. Like, let's just have a writers group, right? So I would get people who had really eclectic experience, and then what they would bring. And then I tried to mix it up. Of course, 50-50 gender. I tried to mix up the ethnicity so that and different ages. So we had young and old. He wanted all these different perspectives, because then when you have a challenge, and we would use it, every year was different, but sometimes we would check in on 2 or 3 projects and 1 or 2 personal. So you'd have someone who was a high-powered agent who really wanted to focus on their spirituality. So this was the one place where they could talk about spirituality and not be dealing with, and also not be pitched by every person in the room, right? You'd have a casting director who nobody could picture. And we would just talk as human beings, which was wonderful. And so we'd have 12, and every month one person would host at their house, or it could be at a restaurant, Dutch. And then every month you switched with partners. So I would have a one-on-one with Jon. We'd get to know each other really well. Then the next month, get to know someone else. And then I throw parties, which became exponential, where every year we would invite the masterminders, and each one of the masterminders would invite their cream of the crop people. And then as that group grew, then those 12 would create a new group, a new group, a new group. And we got to a pretty good size. And then we'd have all those garden parties that had like cedar planked salmon, and it was really lovely.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah,
that sounds like a great idea. Yeah.
I think I'm friends with almost everybody. You know, maybe I haven't had falling outs with anyone. You just fall out of touch, but you know, we stay in contact however we can. But yeah, they grew, and then you pitch. Here's what happens now. We meet every other week with my group here, and you can tell them like legally and financially what's happening, and they will tell you the truth. Like we've had many times where someone's getting screwed, and there's expertise in that room of what to put in the contract and how to negotiate that. Or
this is for producing a show, or
film and television, primarily film and TV, and who's getting paid what, actors, who's bankable, who's not. You know, it's fantastic. And or people that you have on your short list and you don't know that they have a drug or alcohol problem. Nobody needs to air that dirty laundry, but you can just say, you know, you might want to focus over here to save one another some, you know, challenges, because this is a tough business where it's like a cheese grater.
Yeah. Well, I think it is important to have contacts and to be careful of your circle, because when you're doing film and TV, there's a lot of money at stake.
For sure.
Anyway, yeah, when you have those large amounts of money at stake, you really have to be careful who you're
but
hiring.
Also self-care. You know, we forget, like I have worked 17-hour days and not even be aware of it. You know, you're up at 5 because your mind is going crazy, and before you know it. So to have people in your life that remind you, did you get off your ass today? Did you get some sunshine? Did you paint? Did you know, so I try really hard to focus on, like, I'm in a very committed, wonderful honeymoon 15-year romance, but I make a concerted effort to make time for that, you know. And same thing with my friends. I even have in my database, you know, we have people, company, projects, all the different things. I literally drag people first, even if it doesn't make sense logically, so that I never forget people first, people first, people first. So it doesn't matter alphabetically, it doesn't matter time, people first. And, you know, and I've done well with that, because I've had projects, you know, projects fall apart and they come back. But those friendships, I have friendships 20, 30 years, and they have my back, and we're loyal. And you want to have fun in this life, and you want to work on projects that are meaningful to you with people you enjoy. And it's tough, you know. And the other thing I notice is I can't do this all perfectly, but I try to put, when I put stuff on my task list, I got to read this book. I put how many pages it is, right? I got to watch this movie. Is it 90 minutes? Is it 2 hours? I got to watch whatever I have to watch, to view, and that time, because it's not just the time, it's attention. You know, that's our most precious asset right now, because you can't really multitask. I can listen to a book on tape if I'm on the treadmill, but I can't watch a video and work on something else. You know, your attention is precious. So I love to listen to books on tape while I'm doing laundry, when I'm doing the dishes, when I'm doing really mindless things. But I really try hard now to really focus one thing.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's important, especially as, you know, complicated as the world's gotten. We have so much coming at us all the time. Heather, I have lots of questions. So, because I'm still, like, your resume is just so long. You've just done so much. Tell us about, so this Lifetime movie with Vanessa Williams. I'm reading your in 2000, The Courage to Love. You did that. What did you do? You produced it, right?
No. I wrote, that was an original spec screenplay, and I got Vanessa Williams attached, and then it was made into a $5.5 million Lifetime original movie. And it was about the first African-American nun ordained by the Catholic Church, and there are still efforts underway to canonize her as a saint. And it's kind of a Cinderella story in reverse, where the quadroon ball was where so many wealthy European men chose their mistress for the season of, and many of them unfortunately were raped or got pregnant. And so that it's a very interesting time period. It's New Orleans in the 1830s. And, there was a lot of racial prejudice between dark-skinned, olive-skinned, high yellow, quadroon, octoroon. So there was all this racism within, and whether they were indoor, outdoors, it was an amazing time period. And the character that Vanessa Williams plays, was kind of sort of groomed to go to this ball and find her benefactor. And she was over it. She's like, I'm not having any of that. And so, I wanted to have her like not jump the broom coming into this ballroom, but she hightailed it out of there. And she was kind of this Mother Teresa like character who helped slave children learn to read. She worked with, literacy with orphans, older people, senior citizens. She did some amazing things. So the story is, it is based on a true life story, and it's a historical biopic. And of course, whatever you call it, not everything is completely true because it got Hollywoodized. I didn't get to stay on board as a producer.
Creative license.
No.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was looking for, creative license. So
yeah.
Anyway, it is what it is. It's been playing forever,
Wow. So, and you wrote the script, and then I'm reading
you.
you directed, produced, and co-wrote Absolute Killers in 2011. What was that about?
That was a faith-based mob thriller, because there aren't enough of those. It was a client,
yeah, okay.
it was a client's self-published book. And so I helped him adapt it. And then we got Meatloaf attached, and Ed Asner and Eddie Furlong, who was the kid in Terminator 2. And we had a great cast: Elaine Hendricks, Rick Ravanello, Brian Krause, who was in Charmed. So we had Rena Owen, who had been in Once Were Warriors. She's kind of iconic, down under. So yeah, we had a fantastic cast. And I'm proud of what we started with. Was an all-male cast with 2 female characters, and one was the slut trophy wife and the other was the virgin DA. And when I was done with it, that's not what it was. It wasn't perfect, but we had a female judge in a wheelchair, and we had the DA having agency and being brainy, and the trophy wife stood up for herself, and he had his comeuppance. And so I tried to create some stronger female roles, because we are not just mothers and wash buddies, So yeah, and it's interesting, yeah. And anyway, it was quite the learning experience. So I raised the money and had to literally, IATSE tried to strike us in the middle of principal photography, and I had to go through an audit and survived it. And
oh wow,
it was interesting. Yeah, it was a challenge.
Yeah, that's a big undertaking to start from scratch.
For sure.
Create the whole thing, get it.
And to write, direct, and produce. I didn't have a producer. I really didn't have a first AD. I mean, it was just quite, and that's, part of the reason I went to get my MFA was like, which is frustrating also, because you feel like I decided I'm going to move cross country and spend I'd spend this money, invest in myself. I could buy a camera and try to shoot. Well, I'll do this myself. So I moved cross country and COVID hits. So now I'm sitting on my ass, hemorrhaging cash in student loans, watching masterclasses I've seen a million times, and studio binder videos, all of which are great, but hello, I don't need to pay for that. So that was frustrating. So, you live and you learn.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like you always make the best of everything, though.
I try to.
What else can we do? Right. What else?
Right. Exactly.
I have more questions about you won Emmys.
I did not win Emmys. 2 of my projects won Emmys. You have to, in the I had two different PBS edutainment series, and you had to have written a third of the project, and I wrote like 29.33% or something. So I would have, and actually, had I known at the time, I could have bought an Emmy, because the writer producers got them, but I could have bought ones for me, but I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know it for years. So I am not allowed to say I'm an Emmy award winning writer, but I am the writer of Emmy award winning shows.
Well, to me, I say you won Emmys.
Thank you.
In my eyes, that's the same thing. I mean, you were part of a
team
production that won Emmys,
yeah.
so you won Emmys.
But I did win Best New Series Pilot on a project, and I've won a lot of the projects have won Tellies and Ace Awards, and so you keep plugging along.
That's fun, because that gives you a little bit of encouragement, I guess, to that what you're doing is right, because we all need feedback. It's not really about blowing up your ego. It's just, am I on the right track? Am I doing the right thing? Do people appreciate what I'm doing?
There was a time where everything I had written had been made, so I was very proud of that. Like, I wrote it, got made, wrote it, got made, wrote it, got made.
Yeah, that's big.
Not there anymore. But two moments that were really painful with The Courage to Love. The first time I was in the trades, I saw like The Courage to Love, and it had Vanessa Williams, and it was on Lifetime. I was so excited, and I read this article, and at the very, very bottom it says written by, and it had somebody else's name. So the first time I was in the trades, that was stolen from me. And then I had to go through Writers Guild arbitration to prove that I wrote the original script, and it was awful. But I won. I've won every case I've ever been in. And I've never started any. It's like my parents, like, don't ever start any fights, but finish them all, which is I've moved legally to that. And then with Absolute Killers, I went into the AFM, and I was so excited. There's a poster of my movie at the American Film Market, and they didn't have my name on as a director. They might have even had somebody else's name. Like, it's just every chance people get, they try to screw you, and you just have to keep smiling.
That would be hard.
It was incredibly hard. I am not saying there were not tears. It was hard.
Yeah. Well, because your career is built on what you've done in the past.
Credits,
so again,
awards.
It's not necessarily about ego. It's about getting the credit so that you can keep moving forward and do
well. And then other people try to steal your credits to fake build their career. So I mean, I had like Wikipedia, Best Buy, Walmart, the DVDs. Like, I'll go on to Best Buy, and it doesn't even have my name as director. They kept taking my name off as director, like, and other people are trying to steal it. So it's like, I guess in other cases, other people won't notice, but it's crazy. You work so hard to get those opportunities, and then people try to steal them from you over and over again with no qualms.
Wow. I didn't know about that part. That's crazy. Wow.
Jon?
Do you have any of those stories?
Not really in that of that level. Mine wound up becoming in the book publishing business. By the time I left LA working as a script doctor and decided to get into the book business, dealing with retailers, wholesalers. What a joy. What a joy. And I hear stories. That's why I'm happy that I self-published. I have control. I know where my name is on everything. But I hear stories about other people and what they go through when they're signed to a publishing company, a major publishing company.
I had my publisher on my contract literally said that, here's this book I've created from scratch. So I've got 4 books published that have my name on them, and I've ghostwritten several others. But one of them, it literally said that they could hire somebody else to rewrite me, and I wouldn't have any control. Like, they could literally, in the second edition, hire somebody else to rewrite me on my book, and then I'm out of it. And I'm like, no. It just happens all the time. Like, it's like they treat I call them entrepreneurs, arts and craftsmen that are entrepreneurs. They just treat us like we're widgets, like we're just ants to step on, and we are so disregarded. But I will tell you, like, you can get very frustrated and disenfranchised, but at the end of the day, Like I have so many projects, so much, I'm so prolific. Like if you got to cheat to win, have fun with that, because the idea, and even the product ready to be shot, or even in the can, like each one of those is the beginning of ultra marathons. It is
Right.
so much work for every step. And if people are going to betray you, you want to find out early,
Yeah.
because there's plenty of projects to work on, and there
Well,
are 8 billion people on the face of the earth. We can find others to work with.
I over the years, I learned when you says if people are going to screw you, you should find out early. I have found that usually the people who say, "Don't worry, trust me, I won't screw you." Those are the ones you need to get in your car and peel rubber and just put as much distance between you and those. Trust me, I've never screwed you.
Yeah. Well, I found also little teeny things, like it's not like dating. I mean, it is like dating, but in a way, if a guy says he'll call and he doesn't call, that's not the end of the world, but it's a little teeny pink flag. People show you, or what do they say? People show you whatever, how to treat them. The same thing professionally. If someone says they're going to do XYZ and you say, okay, and they don't, okay.
Yep.
That's a signal. If a lot of times I will say, well, why don't you? And then I give them a baby thing. Like, why don't you go onto my website, or why don't you read this one sheet, or just a little thing. And then if you never hear from them again, good riddance.
That's right.
And that happens a lot. So I have people who ask me to mentor them. This happens all the time, all the time. And I will say, okay, and I will. I mean, I bought lunch for a girl the other day just to mentor her and help her for free, right? But there will be people who will say, oh, I want, da da da. Like, could you read my 12 books and then tell me, like, okay, no. But I'll say, well, send me a one sheet and we'll talk about it, just a one sheet. And then 9 out of 10 don't.
They don't.
Exactly. Okay, that's how important my time is not even important enough for you on your own product to send me your one sheet.
Yep.
I'm not going to buy a cup of coffee here.
Right.
Yep. Well, there's a difference in a reason that successful people are successful. So I started life coaching when I was in LA. I created a course called Find Your Excellence, and I started holding, I don't want to say teaching. I conducted the workshops at colleges in Los Angeles.
Facilitated.
Yes. And that's really what I called myself, a facilitator. Yeah. It was full of it was a course, all day activities, just self-improvement, self-awareness activities. And I thought, I'm going to help people, and these troubled, down and out people are going to come. And, I was so excited to like really help these people grow. Yeah. And the people that showed up to these classes, it was kind of intimidating for me, were millionaires. I had one of the actresses from Days of Our Lives that I worked with, Deidre Hall, came to one of my classes. Other very successful people. And I was so disappointed because, again, number one, they were all way more successful than I was. So it was intimidating. And number two, it's like, I wanted to help people. I'm like, I'm not going to help you guys. This is an elementary self-awareness, personal growth workshop. You're all successful. But also, so I learned two things. One, I learned successful people are always trying to improve themselves.
Yeah.
So Find Your Excellence would tell you, you're looking for something. And number two, even successful people still need help. They still need, there might be a missing piece. There's something that they're not completely fulfilled. So anyway, but it's funny though, that the people that show up and do the work are the ones that are going to be successful.
I have so much respect for hard workers, just so much respect. People who just do what the hell they say they're going to do and do a good job.
Follow up and honor your word. That's really what has always meant something to me, is doing what I said I was going to do and carrying through as I promised.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are just talkers. They just talk, and then don't carry through. And you can spot those people quickly, though. You just get away from them, discard them.
Yeah. That's why the little teeny baby assignments, why don't we do this? why don't, like a lot of people will say, will you refer me to so-and-so? And
Yeah.
I'll say, yeah, I'll say, okay, why don't you send me a rough draft of the email you'd like me to send? And I'll put it in my own words. Never hear from them again. Well,
Yeah, because I want you to do the work. That's the other thing that was
exactly.
frustrating with me.
Make it easy for me to help you, and I will help you.
I was doing the individual life coaching, phone coaching on the phone. And I'd get clients from the classes. They'd sign up with me. And I was like, okay, this is good. Maybe these are people that really need help. And I would give them assignments to do for the next week. And then I talked to them the next week and they didn't do it.
Yeah.
And so I'd say, I can't help you if you're not going to do these activities, these exercises, because they're going to lead you to somewhere.
My friends always call it Heather's homework. I'm always giving them homework and Heather's honeydews. I have like my task list on all our projects, honeydews. I'm not like assigning or delegating. It's all grunt work. It's all speculative. We all got to divvy it up. Let's everybody get out and push the truck up the hill, you know?
Yeah. But you're right. If I want help from you, I have to make it as easy as possible to help me.
Absolutely.
They want you to do the work though. And that's what
I
I
used
found
to
with the
have
life
an
coaching.
entertainment attorney who was relatively high powered and busy. And, you know, it's like we can work our ass off for 2 years, and there are people in the business who can pick up the phone and accomplish what we can accomplish in 2 years in one phone call.
Right.
So I used to write up the letter that I needed from him this is way back in the day, for him to run off on his letterhead. So I had the screenplay in an envelope with the postage done, who the letter was going, like all he had to do. And I would literally hand it to the receptionist, run it through. Is this okay? Okay. And like I did it all, they're going to make they don't care. They don't care. Nobody cares.
Well, some people do. I care, Heather.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. But it looks like it's paid off for you. It looks like you've, done the work.
I'm a
like
hustler.
It gets
I'm a hard worker. Yeah.
But don't you feel like that's part of the fun of it too?
I'm definitely trying to have more fun all the time. Like there's so much stress on a production. Like in our talk show, we shoot 21 episodes in 3 days flat.
Ooh.
Yeah. That is like 6, 9, 7. Day 1 is 6 because you need 2 hours to set up. Day 2 is 9 episodes because they're half hour come in the door, like they're half hour episodes, 22-minute episodes. But you got a limo coming in, they go into hair and makeup. This person's on the set. Oh my God, nonstop. And then the last day is 8 because we got to get everybody out the door. You just got to have fun. If we're working this hard all the time, let's have some fun. That doesn't mean silly and ridiculous, but let's enjoy the ridiculousness of this situation.
But what I find is fun is being organized. If you've got that much going on, as long as you're organized and things go, of course, there are glitches here and there, but that's the fun of it. I hate chaos. I hate disorganization.
We've had people come into our talk show where we have 3 days insanely tightly scheduled, and they'll come in on the wrong day, which is 1,000% their fault. We never make it their fault, but we were able to bring them in. They don't even know they've made a mistake, and we managed to juggle and still get that episode done. And that's it. It's like they say, how you make people feel, how you treat them, like treat everybody with respect, have fun with it, do good content. And enjoy your coworkers. I like to cathartically crack my coworkers up. I mean, of course, we're professional all the time, but if we're doing this, let's have fun. It's our life.
You've got a job to do. Let's get it done. Let's do it right and have fun while we're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that philosophy.
There's a fine line too of what everybody contributes and how are we moving it forward. And we can still be friends and talk socially and other stuff, but let's stay on path, on point. And what does everybody in the room have to contribute to what we're trying to do as a team here, and make sure that if you have department heads, you can have meetings with the people who are interested in that topic or that project.
Right. Yeah. Because then at the end of the day, we all have a job. And that's our job to complete. But I always like the collaboration, I guess.
And it's good to know what everybody else is doing, because sometimes you can contribute in a way that they do their jobs easier. And sometimes what you're asking is incredibly hard because you don't understand what their job is.
Yeah.
And then if you understood their job, you can come up with a way you can get what you need that doesn't make them have to do 10 times as much work. That's,
Yeah.
I think the collaboration is so important. It's understanding what everybody else's job is, respecting it, appreciating what everybody brings to the table, letting them have their creative space and room to breathe so that you can all raise the bar on what you're doing together.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a talent. It's definitely a talent to bring people together that work well together, that have the right pieces of the puzzle. Cause it really is just a puzzle, especially on a creative project. If it's something creative.
And that's where a bad egg can really soil a lot more. Like you really need to pay attention to a bad hire.
Yeah.
Because you don't want it to sully the dissension in the ranks. You really need a team. You need everybody working towards the same goal.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I've been stuck with that before, because when you don't have anybody else coming in applying for the job, you've only got one person that wants the job and that's willing to do it, and they have an attitude or whatever. It's really rough.
The same thing is true in production. When you go to a city that doesn't have the depth of crew, and then you have people who say they can do a job, but because they just know what the word is, they don't even know what that actual job is.
Yeah.
And now because you have no other choices, because you got to hire locally, and now you're like, oh, so yeah.
Yeah, that's really rough. That's what I miss about Los Angeles, because you are working with the best people.
That's like in film school, they think the producer is the person who brings lunch.
God.
They just don't get it. Yeah.
No. Yeah. You have to deal with all the headaches, everything. So yeah. Well, okay, with your vast experience in writing and directing and producing and casting and what else? Everything really related in the film industry. Do you have any advice? You have given us some advice, a general advice of, networking and bringing people together and how to lead teams and everything. For someone just starting out, let's say they want to end up being in a position like you've been, maybe writing their own projects or producing and directing, someone new in the business, what would you say to them?
Oh, well, I would need a weekend.
And you do teach these kinds of classes,
or at
right?
least lunch. Yeah. Well, there's so much. It depends on whether they're trying to be a writer, director, producer, actor. Like there's so much, but I would say, so much I would want to say to them. One is, it is a business, as Jon said, that it can chew you up and spit you out. It can be a really tough business. And so I think one of the reasons we are attracted to art and craft is something gets under your skin, something touches your heart, something intrigues you, raises your curiosity. And so it's keeping your heart open is one of the hardest things, because when your heart is open, you're sensitive to what's going on in the zeitgeist around you. But also when your heart is open, you're that much more susceptible and vulnerable to being chewed up and eaten up. And, so it's to not be naive, but to somehow manage to have this thick rhinoceros skin, but keep your heart open. Like that's one of the hardest things. And another thing I think is I'm just going to sound like a cliche, but it's so true. It's to like stay true to your authenticity, like who you are, like your culture, where you came from, the stories that matter to you. I think we always try to shave off the corners to fit the widget into the round hole, when that uniqueness is what makes it. The more specific you can be, the more universal you are and the more truthful you are. And a lot of times we're trying to squeeze ourselves into somebody else's image, or worse, what we think somebody else expects of us, and we're wrong because our assumptions are wrong and their assumptions are wrong. And so to just stay to the truth, if you can stay to the truth, you can be funny, you can be poignant, you can be emotionally engaging. So I think, and one of the other things is like, I keep a bullet journal, little journal with me at all times, and I write a zillion things in it. But one of the most important things is writing down stuff I've heard, books I should read, movies I should, someone says, oh, you got to watch and write them down, write them down, write them down. And maybe you can't watch them all, but stuff's going to come up over and over, right? Or something's intriguing, or this happens to me, I'll watch movies and TV and God, that guy, I don't even know who he is. He is great. go to IMDb and find out who he is. Like I like collect my seashells if I ever get a chance, because it's not who everybody else says. Because sometimes you'll be watching something. My boyfriend and I do this all the time. There's several things on the air right now I won't say, but there's like a great cast and one standout awful person. Like every scene they're in, they're ruined. I write that person down because doesn't matter what their resume is and what everybody says. Like I have watched them ruin scene after scene after scene. And the reverse is true. Maybe something's awful, but that one person is great. So I really try to do that. Same thing with the writers. Like I'll be watching a series and I enjoy it. I'm liking it, but one episode is so good. Who wrote that? Who directed that? And I go back and look and I track that, So I'm doing like my own tracking so that if I ever got a show off the ground, I know who the writers are. I would grab in a heartbeat. Who are the actors? Yeah, we have to go with who's bankable and who has marquee value. But here's the people I love that I've been watching that may not be famous, but I know that will be a fantastic quilt for a terrific show.
And I think that is really good advice that's not typical.
Yeah.
You're doing your homework. You're keeping
Well, and you're
notes
paying
on
attention
everyone.
to
You
your
know
tastes.
who's who and what they do. And
yeah, because everybody else can tell you who's bankable, who's not, and that changes with the wind.
right.
Right. But talent, I mean, there are people who I recognize show after show after show. I couldn't even tell you their name right now, probably, but I know because I've been writing it down and they are so good and they deserve a break, right?
Yep.
So I think it's just honoring your tastes, remembering, and I try to do this now. I'll watch something. I don't necessarily do it with every episode, but with a show, when I've like binged a show, like I don't know if you've seen Murder at the End of the World, I think it's called. Oh, I think it's Murder at the End of the World. It's an Apple Plus show, one of the best things on TV. It's a little limited series. It's like an AI Agatha Christie modern thriller. Anyway, at the end of the limited series or at the end of the season or at the end of the movie, I do like a quick little, not a review to like, oh, I'm going to be so smart and post this on Rotten Tomatoes and whatever, just for you. What did you like about it? What was good about it? Or that person, like whatever jumped out at me. Because a lot of times I'll look back and like, did we watch that? Like that happens all the time. Did we see that? You're like halfway through a season. Oh, we've seen this. How bad is that? So I try to track like what I'm liking, and it starts to, you think there's this landscape of so much, but yeah, the cream of the crop rises to the top over and over again. And if you're paying attention, we're barraged with so much information. It's a miracle we can keep anything straight. But if you keep paying attention, I do this with people, like who are the pearls? Where are the seashells on my beach, right? And protect them. Because it matters. It matters.
I think that sounds like even a good exercise for an actor, producer, director, just to start picking out what really stands out and what works in people's performances or the writing or the.
I teach a lot of classes. I do a lot of different kinds of classes, but especially screenwriting. And, one of the exercises I'll have is, what are the 10 best films of all time? And have them do them from memory. Don't look them up. And then what are your 10 favorite films? Well, they should be the same damn list. Right. Because somebody else told you it should be Chinatown or it should be Casablanca. It's okay if it's Groundhog Day and Romancing the Stone and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, what are your favorite films? Those are like when you're a kid and you're saying, what are the best graphic novels or comic book heroes or whatever, or the best baseball player or hockey player, like you're entitled to have that powerful, right? Like, why don't we still do that? Why don't we have enough balls to trust our own taste and stick to it?
Yeah. So as this is the first time I've formally met you from Jon, and thank you so much for joining us. And again, your resume is just so impressive, and your glow. You are such a delight that there's no surprise that you're very successful. And I know Jon wishes you well, and I wish you everything that you want.
Oh, I wish you two great success with your podcast and all your other ventures. And I know Jon is so prolific with all of his books and research. And I'm one of these days we are going to do something together. We're going to do a series or feature. And Kellie, you seem amazing, and I love to work with you on something. Like, it's all about good people, right? And constellations of good people.
Yep. Yeah. Well,
thank you very much, Heather. We really appreciate this. You're wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Sure,
you.
people who listen and watch will definitely get something out of this.
I wish I had thought of more insightful, pithy things to say.
You can always do this again. I think if we do this again, Kellie wants to talk to you about your food enjoyment. Something
did
that
you mention that you do herbs or something? No.
I am just got certified as a whole food plant-based. I shouldn't say that. T. Colin Campbell, the guy who wrote the China study, has at Cornell whole food plant-based nutrition certificate. So it's not like I'm a nutritionist or anything, but I wanted to learn enough. I have an autoimmune disease and I've struggled with my weight my whole life. So I wanted to was trying to gamify eating healthier, right? So I'm trying to like paint produce, and then I'm a master gardener. So I've been trying to plant produce. My boyfriend, sweetheart, built me a greenhouse. So I'm planting, wow. I'm trying to do the Roy G. Biv. I'm trying to have the red, orange, yellow, green, indigo and violet on my plate at all times. Try to have as much raw food as I can, as much. I'm not a vegetarian. If I were a better person, I would be a vegan. I'm trying, but I'm very like 80% whole food, plant-based, trying my best. But I'm trying, so I'm growing microgreens and sprouts, and it's fascinating. And so I think when you plant it and watch it grow, like my boyfriend, when we first met, had never had asparagus, Scottish, never had asparagus, never had avocado, and a bunch of other stuff. So he has gone from snapping my hands when we're at Whole Foods because I'm reaching for stuff that's insanely expensive, and he doesn't understand, like, what would you pay that much for pine nuts, to now he's all about help. He's not there all the way, but he's really come a long way. So yeah, I mean, like, you think of, like, here's an example. When you plant broccoli, and so when broccoli grows and it's this big head of broccoli head, right? When you plant it and the seed comes up and it's this big and there's that tiny little broccoli sprout, all the nutrition that is in the huge head of the broccoli sprout is in that tiny sprout. All of it is there.
So you can just eat that little piece right then, and
for sure you have a whole little salad of those little sprouts. That would be the best thing. Sprouts and microgreens are like the second coming. I mean, they are just like, I think on Mars they will be.
We have to do this again because I want to hear all about this.
I will happily do that because, like I said, just became a master gardener a few years ago. We have about a half acre with everything under the sun: blackberries, figs, tangelos. I'm wildly imperfect, made every mistake in the book, but I'm all about like wheatgrass and microgreens, and just trying really hard to eat as healthy as we can, as raw and natural as we can. Totally not perfect, but trying.
But it's amazing to watch it grow, right? Because last summer,
when you watch it grow, that's what I thought. If I could make it grow, and then watching it grow is fascinating. Taking pictures of it, painting it, cooking. I had a goal of trying to have a new produce every week, and he's like, "You're never going to be able to do that." But I try to eat everything that's in season. I have magnets, and I check off what's in season. This, right now. Try to eat it fresh, eat it local. Try to grow it if I can. Try to come up with new recipes that have okay, two things I'll tell you, and I'll let you guys go. Dr. Greger, the guy who wrote How Not to Die, How Not to Diet, fantastic. Nutrition studies.org or something like that. Dr. Greger, he has the Daily Dozen and the 21 health tweaks, 21 weight loss tweaks. So that Daily Dozen tells you, like, try to have beans, try to have black cumin. We grind black cumin. We have all these different spices that I put on everything. All of those things help. So while I have plenty of weight to lose, we always joke, like my boyfriend too, we both have weight to lose. If there's an apocalypse, you want us on your team because we will kick some ass. Like, all of our friends are like, we are the engineers. We can grow things. Like, I'm not a prepper, but if we were in a game of survival, we'd be doing pretty good.
I love that. I so want to hear more. I really want to hear all about
Anytime.
that. I would love
We'll
it.
I'd
do.
love to
Okay.
talk about that.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Heather.
Thanks, Heather.
Pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take
So
care.
nice meeting you, Kelly. So good seeing you,
too.
John. We'll have to play again soon and shoot something together.
We
You
will.
guys should.
We will.
Yes.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.